Hi, I'm Andrew Rain. I'm a water resources engineer at Prairie Rivers Network. For years now, Prairie Rivers Network has been working to protect the Middle Fork from the threat of coal ash. The Middle Fork is a beautiful river. It's home to a wide array of wildlife, many of which is threatened and endangered. It's not uncommon on a trip down the river to see turtles, blue herons, bald eagles, but it's also not uncommon to see red-stained riverbank. This riverbank is red-stained because of leachate from coal ash. The Vermilion Power Station is behind me. It's owned by a company called Dynegy, which is an energy-based company out of Texas. The power station used to burn coal. It's currently closed and has been closed since 2011, but in its 60-year operating life, it dumped 3 million cubic yards of coal ash into the floodplain of the Vermilion River. So much coal ash, in fact, that it would be enough to fill up the Empire State Building 2.5 times. Coal ash is the byproduct of coal-fired power plants. As they burn coal, it leaves behind fly ash and bottom ash. These materials are collected and dumped in large impoundments. In this case, they've dumped them in the floodplain of the Vermilion River. Coal ash is dangerous because it contains toxic metals that are not healthy for wildlife or human consumption. The impoundments that they stored this ash in are unlined, and they continue to seep these substances from the coal ash into the river. 3 massive coal ash pits sit on the bank of the Middle Fork River. If you were canoeing south, the first you'd encounter is the North Ash Pit, then the Old East Ash Pit, then the New East Ash Pit. The river has been meandering towards the coal ash impoundments for years. Over time, the banks are slowly getting eaten away by the river. At some point, the rivers will be cutting into the impoundments themselves, and at that point, we risk failure and further contamination of the Middle Fork. So in 2011, Illinois EPA sent Dynegy a notice of violation for groundwater. And so what that means is that the groundwater at the site was over maximum levels for toxic contamination. And this kicked off a process that has gone on since then, in which Dynegy has proposed various solutions to the coal ash that have not yet been accepted. Ultimately, Dynegy proposed a cap, which is putting an impermeable layer on top of the impoundment so that water can't get in from above. The problem with this cap is that it doesn't stop water from coming in from below. So the coal ash is still going to have groundwater in it from below, and it's still going to seep into the river. In 2009, Dynegy applied for bank stabilization along the New East Ash Pond, where erosion had been becoming significant to the point where it was within 10 feet of the impoundment. And this process went back and forth for 6 years until a year ago or a year and a half ago, Dynegy finally got approval of a solution, but only because the situation had become so dire that something had to be done. Last winter, one of our board members, Clark Bullard, and I came out to the Middle Fork to see what they were doing. We hiked out to the east side of the riverbank across from Dynegy, and as we approached the site, they were currently constructing it. So we wanted to check it out because in the past, Dynegy has sort of violated the terms of their construction projects. And so we creeped up on a Friday on the other side of the riverbank right as they were finishing construction. And as the last truck drove away, we came out past the tree line. And then we heard in the distance the truck coming back. So Clark and I both dived back in the bushes and hid there as the truck was driving away. And what we saw was Dynegy had constructed almost 500 feet of white stone on the bank to protect it. This protection is more of a Band-Aid solution than a permanent solution. Dynegy wants to handle this problem piecemeal. And what that's going to create is a situation where they slowly armor the entire bank, and then they leave it, and they walk away, and they put a cap on it. What that means is that eventually, the river will eat through that armoring. The river has already shown that it can eat through armoring that was put in the 80s. If you canoe down the river, you'll see that it's in tatters along the bank of the river. All of this bank work would only disguise the real problem. Dynegy's coal ash is in the floodplain of the Middle Fork. It's next to a river that is going to be meandering back and forth, and it's going to flood into this area. A cap alone doesn't solve the problem, and bank reinforcement doesn't solve the problem. The coal ash will still be there, and it'll still be exposed to water. We need Dynegy to move this coal ash out of the floodplain so that the river can be protected for now, 50 years from now, and well into the future. This year, Dynegy is now proposing a new set of studies. They contacted Illinois EPA in May and proposed another set of groundwater studies, another set of stability studies, and another set of closure action plan studies. We're expecting the stability studies in November. December they'll have their closure action. And in a year and a half from now, we're expecting to get the groundwater studies back.